Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's health, fitness, and nutrition company that works predominantly with women on their hormones, particularly once they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We all know that so many women struggle with hormonal symptoms like irritability, brain fog, night sweats, hot flashes, moodiness, forgetfulness, but also this sudden weight gain that just seems to come on out of absolutely nowhere. It's like you woke up one day and all of a sudden you have this little tire around your waist and it's just growing and growing and nothing is working. Yet you've changed nothing. You're still eating the same. Everything is the same. And now you're just trying to cut your carbs, your calories, doing some cardio, all those things that you used to do to lose weight, yet somehow they're not working. And now you're just frustrated and you're overwhelmed, feeling defeated, and have no idea what to do. But we all know here at Vitality that now your body is inherently different due to these hormonal changes. So it's our mission to teach women about how their bodies change during this period of their life, so that you can finally reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, what I wanted to really talk about is, are you ready for a fat loss phase? Are you ready for a cut? Are you ready to go into a deficit? Is your body going to respond? And the short answer, which everyone is going to hate me for, is probably not. And there's so many things that we need to address. So first things first is we need to restore your metabolism. We got to get metabolism burning. We need to instill a solid foundation with healthy habits so that we can optimize your fat loss phase so that it's actually effective. You can get the most out of it. We do this by manipulating not only your nutrition, but your activity and exercise, and getting you dialed into where you need to be. So, are you actually ready for a fat loss phase? That is the $1 million question. Step number 1, we need to assess where you currently are now. And if you have 3 or more on this list, then unfortunately you are not ready for a fat loss phase and you actually need to go into a reverse diet first. So, are you ready? 3 or more of these things tells me you're not ready for a fat loss phase. And don't be like, maybe. No, like, if you try and go to a fat loss phase and you have more than 3 items on this list, you will not be successful, you will struggle, and you're basically just prolonging your timeline even further. So, number 1, are you eating low calorie for more than 3 months? And low calorie is medically termed less than 1,600 calories. You are supposed to have supervision if you're doing less than that. Are you struggling to adhere to your current diet? Are you having poor sleep? So you have a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, you toss and turn, you're not feeling well rested when you wake up. You have poor energy or fatigue. You're experiencing like crashes and cravings in the afternoon. You're just tired. Energy is not what it used to be. Your gym performance is decreased. You're finding you're not as strong, or you're getting tired quicker in your workouts. You're requiring more recovery. Are you struggling with hormones and hormonal symptoms? Are you dealing with some hair loss or thinning? Do you have poor digestion? So is digestion slow? Are you feeling bloated? Do you have irregular bowel movements? Are you constipated? Are you going to the bathroom every day? Are you always cold? This is another one. Do you find social events around food stressful? Do you fall into a binge and restrict cycle where it's like you restrict, and all of a sudden, boom, you have like a weekend or a night where you just eat everything in sight and then you repeat that over and over and over? Have you cut out a food group completely? Carbs. Yes, I know so many women are cutting out carbs. If you're cutting out carbs, you're not ready for a fat loss phase. I'm telling you that much. Are you irritable? Are you always hungry or never hungry? If you're eating less than 1,600 calories and you're never hungry, this is a huge red flag because you're supposed to feel hungry. You're not supposed to feel hungry all of the time, but you are supposed to feel hungry. So if you're not getting hungry, that's an issue. Do you have no sex drive anymore? Libido has just completely decreased. Do you feel like you are doing everything right, yet nothing is working? Again, are you having those energy crashes? Are you experiencing brain fog? If you have more than 3 of those items on your list, you're not ready for a fat loss phase. And I'm sure everyone listening right now is like, oh, for frick's sake, Steph, like you just ruined my day. I just want to lose weight and you just told me I can't. Like, that's super frustrating. What am I supposed to do now? That's okay. that means that we have to go into a reverse diet. And this is something that I'll talk about again at a later date. And I think I've mentioned in past podcasts, but if you're in our Facebook group, we've done a few live trainings on this as well, which is really helpful. But for a reverse diet, basically what we do is we slowly and strategically increase your calories up to where your maintenance should be, so that you can actually get to a place where your hormones start to be balanced. You start feeling good. Your metabolism comes back up. You're sleeping better. Your gut health is good. And then all those things are good. They're stable. We're being consistent. We're hitting our minimum protein. We're not cutting out food groups. You're enjoying your food. You have food freedom and you actually genuinely feel good. Then we go into our fat loss phase. But reverse dieting can take some time. I'm not going to dig too deep into it right now, but basically we're just slowly increasing. But I have women that have been reverse dieting for 6 months to 8 months, which is not what people want to hear. I personally, both times after I had bad experiences where I wasn't taking care of myself, I had to reverse diet for a year. Coach Hannah was doing marathon training. And then after her metabolism got pretty messed up after doing training for, I think it was 4 months. So we can really mess up our metabolism quite quickly, and then it takes a longer time to recover. So this is why being proactive about this stuff is super important. And I'll give some examples at the end as to what this actually looks like. But that's how you're going to solve it. We need to make sure that you are in a good position where your body will actually respond effectively, efficiently, and quickly to a fat loss phase. Otherwise, it's just going to take it's not going to be successful. You're going to be in a fat loss phase for 12 weeks and you're not going to see the scale move enough. It's because you didn't spend enough time on the groundwork, which again, super frustrating, but we'll get into that a little bit more afterwards. So we do have a checklist that we do with all of our clients, and you can write these down. And it's also in our Facebook group as well, which is the Metabolism and Menopause by Vitality, Secrets for Fat Loss. So you can always check there as well. We have lots of resources too. But basically our checklist comprises of the following, and you have to do all of these things for a minimum of 4 to 5 weeks before you can go into a fat loss phase. And we do this with every single one of our clients. It's what ensures that they will be successful. So number 1, digestion. You need to be having regular bowel movements and have good gut health. So that means absence of bloating, not tons of gas, things like that, 4 to 5 weeks. Sleep. You need to be feeling well rested in the mornings and getting good quality sleep. You have a good routine. 3, our hormone symptoms are either non-existent or significantly reduced from when you first started with us. 4, energy. We are not experiencing crashes in the afternoon, and you have pretty steady energy throughout the day. Number 5, you are meeting nutritional guidelines. So you're maintaining your maintenance for a minimum of 4 to 5 weeks where you're consistently hitting calories every day. You're hitting your minimum protein, and we're not skipping any meals. Yes, that's what I said. Not skipping any meals. The next one is stress. We're learning how to handle stress, how to buffer it, doing some active self-care. That can be just going for a light walk. That can be taking a bath. That can be doing something for you for 5 to 10 minutes, even if it's reading, but we're working on lowering those cortisol levels. Water. We want to make sure that you're drinking enough fluids daily. If this is something that you want to actually track and measure, we want you to take your weight in pounds. So I'm 142-ish pounds. I would take that in half, which is 71. That's how many ounces of fluid I should be drinking in a day. Protein, minimum intake for 3 weeks consistently, ideally 4 to 5. And then some sort of activity that's regular in a routine, and you're being consistent with that as well. So once you have all those things, now we can go into our fat loss phase. But how long do we stay in that fat loss phase for? Typically, we're there anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. It can be longer. However, that absolutely requires, no questions asked, diet breaks to ensure your metabolism and hormones do not adapt for the worst. Because we already did so much work during a reverse diet to get that metabolism up, to get your hormones good, get you feeling good, 12 weeks seem to be where our hormones really start to take a dip. Our metabolism starts to slow down again. So we want to make sure that we aren't reversing all the hard work that you put in during that reverse diet. So what we do is you take that short dieting break, we slowly bring your calories up, give you a little breather, and then we dip back down again. And that dieting break can be anywhere from 3 to 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the person, your life, what you have going on, how your biofeedback is. So that's your sleep, your stress, your digestion, that kind of stuff. And that way we can get you in and out of that fat loss phase as quickly as possible and making sure it's effective, efficient, and easy for you. So this is why it is so incredibly important to make sure that your metabolism is firing and fast enough to support fat loss so that you can have an easier time during that 6 to 12 week fat loss phase, because it needs to be short. Everyone always wants to rush to get into that fat loss phase, but I promise you, if you do not take the time to reverse properly, you are setting your body up for failure. You will not be successful. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be hungry and just not having a good time, and feel like you wasted your time, to be quite frank. So we want to ensure that we are getting the most efficient rate of fat loss in the least amount of time while eating the most amount of food to maintain metabolic and hormonal health and maintain as much muscle mass as possible. So I always like to give this analogy of I always say Penny. Why? I don't know. I just use Penny as a name. But let's say that you are doing your reverse dieting. You're slowly increasing your calories. And Penny is, after 6 weeks, she's like, I want to go into my fat loss phase. And I'm like, Penny, you need to be here for at least another 2 to 3 weeks before your body will actually be ready. And she's like, nope, I want to do it today. And then usually what I say is, okay, but if we don't see results, then we got to do it my way. Do we have an agreement? Yes, I usually make them sign off on that so that they can't get mad at me when it doesn't work, because I know it won't work. And sometimes people need to test you. And then they're like, crap, you were right. I'm like, yeah, I know I was. So what we need to do is, okay, let's just use numbers. So Penny's on week 6. She wants to go into her fat loss phase. She should have stayed in her reverse diet till week 9. So 3 weeks early, she goes into our fat loss phase. We get to about week 8 of our fat loss phase. So we did our 6 weeks. Then we do our 8 weeks of a fat loss phase. Nothing has changed. She's not feeling good. Sleep is decreasing. Digestion is not good. She's hungry. She's irritable, and the scale isn't moving. So then this is where I have to say, I'm sorry. I told you so. So now we got to slowly reverse out of it. Because if we just jump back up to our maintenance calories, your body is very vulnerable after we decrease your calories, which is going to make it a lot easier for your body to want to hold on to fat. So we got to slowly bring you out of it. So we did 6 weeks reverse, 8 week of a failed fat loss phase. And now we got to slowly bring her back up. So now that reverse diet to bring her back up to maintenance is going to take, let's say, 4 to 5 weeks. Let's say 5 weeks. No, let's say 6 weeks. Even numbers are easier. So take her out for 6 weeks, and now we get her to her maintenance. Now we got to stay there for another 6 weeks. So if Penny would have just listened and instead done 6 week reverse and then done an extra 3 weeks before going into her fat loss phase, we would have been at the end of her fat loss phase, 9 plus 8, that's 17 weeks. She would have been done her first fat loss phase successfully. However, because she wanted to rush into her fat loss phase too quickly, we did a 6 week reverse, 8 weeks of fat loss phase, 6 weeks coming out, and then another 4 to 5 weeks at maintenance. So we're looking at 14, 12, 24 weeks. So instead of going, now she can't go into a successful fat loss phase. So we add 8 weeks to the end of that, because that's how long the fat loss phase was. So the end of her original fat loss phase should have only taken 17 weeks. However, because she tried to go down and wasn't ready and had to come back out and actually heal everything and then go back down, now we're looking at, I think the math is 32 weeks. So she doubled how long it took her to finish her first fat loss phase. Whereas if she would have listened in the first place and stayed in her reverse diet longer, she could have done 2 fat loss phases in the time that she did 1. So now she's just, by trying to rush the process, she's extending the timeline to get to her end goal, which we all know we don't want to do. So I hope that math made sense to you. I saw it in my head. I hope I counted right. If not, correct me. But I think you get the point. It took double the time to get her to the exact same point if she would just listen the first time. So let's talk about what that fat loss phase looks like now. You have to be absolutely dialed. We need major focus, major consistency. There is not much wiggle room during your fat loss phase. This is why the fat loss phase is short. We want in and out. Compliance is incredibly important. So if you know you're going to be traveling, if you know that you're going to have some stressors coming up, if you know it's going to be really hard, lots of events and stuff like that, if you know it's going to be challenging to be I need a 9.5 out of 10 that you are going to hit your calorie goals every single day. Otherwise, you're just not going to get the results that you want. So making sure that you take the time to build the habits to prep and then choose a time where it's actually easier to go into a fat loss phase. This is really important because compliance is going to be huge to your success. The next thing is adding in extra steps during the day or some sort of increase in activity. We need to plan for this, but we need to watch intensity. We don't want to do like a ton of crazy cardio because that's going to increase your cortisol levels too much, which we don't want. So this is where like increasing your step count is important. And we know that as we're going into a calorie deficit and we're decreasing the amount of calories coming into our body is naturally going to move less. So there's less fidgeting and things like that. And we're not aware of it. So our body actually exerts less energy. So we have to be more mindful about getting activity when we're in a fat loss phase. For example, for myself, I am in a fat loss phase myself right now for the wedding. By the time this comes out, the wedding will have already happened and hopefully it was amazing, which I'm sure it will be. But I got like a walking pad in my office so that I can walk when I'm like answering emails and things like that and doing other work things, meetings, because I know that since I'm eating less calories, my body's naturally moving less. That being said, I'm weighing in at 141.4 this morning. I was eating at my maintenance for about a year, which was anywhere between 2,200 and 2,400 calories. I am in week 4 or 5 of my deficit right now. And I'm still eating 1,950 calories, and I'm still losing about 1.5 pounds a week. So that just goes to show that if you do the work to really boost that metabolism and heal things properly, you get to eat so much more and still lose weight, which is best case scenario. So I don't feel deprived at all. I can still go out with friends. I can still have supper, and it's wonderful. The next thing about the fat loss phase that you need to be aware of is that it is extremely important to be prepared and proactive in this phase. Planning ahead so you aren't screwed at the end of the day is super important. You can't just assume that you can wing it and it's going to work, especially if you have less calories to work with. So I pre-track a lot of my food in the morning for later in the day so that I know what I have left to work back from. Or if I know that I want a treat, I log it earlier so that I know like what areas I'm still missing, how many calories do I have. Protein's really important, so making sure I'm hitting that protein goal. Planning, super important. It's also to be aware that you will be hungrier than normal. You shouldn't be starving, but you will experience some hunger. And this is why it's really important to ensure that you have a good relationship with food, because it's important that we don't fall into binge and restricting cycles, because that's not going to help you whatsoever. It's also you need to work at utilizing your high volume, low calorie foods to help you stay full, satiated, and make sure you have energy throughout the day. So this is stuff that has a lot of volume to it. Like this is where veggies are super important, leaner cuts of protein, things that have more volume, but less calories. So for example, nuts, low volume, tons of calories. So like a quarter cup of nuts is like 200 and some calories, 180, depending on how much like what kind of nut it is. So if you think of like a quarter cup of that versus like a whole chicken breast is going to be like not like 200 calories. Which one's going to keep you more full, that quarter cup of nuts or that full piece of chicken breast? Probably the chicken breast. Think about the equivalent of like broccoli. You can eat a lot of that for a lot less calories. It's going to keep you full. So you learn to manipulate food choices that way. And that's not to say you can't enjoy other things. Like I had a cinnamon bun yesterday and still met my nutritional goals and I wasn't hungry and it was totally fine. The other thing that like I cannot stress enough, and this is something that we have conversations with our clients with a ton, is that if you have increased stress in your life as you're going through a fat loss phase, you need to reassess where you're at. Going into a fat loss phase is a stress on our body, and it is naturally going to bring our cortisol levels up. If you have more stress going on in your life, you create a risk of crashing and negatively affecting your metabolism and hormones. So it means that we have to be less aggressive or potentially come out of it slowly. We might have to increase our carbohydrate intake to buffer that stress. There's different things that you can do to manipulate it. But if stress increases when you're in a fat loss phase, you need to take the time to reassess because you can really screw yourself over otherwise. So let's say you're in a fat loss phase and there's signs that tell you need to come back out. You need to come to your maintenance. You need to reverse out of it slowly. And again, slowly increasing your calories, because after a fat loss phase, we are very vulnerable. And our body is going to want to hold on to fat when we're having excess calories. So increasing slowly is very important. So how do we know when it's time to come out of our fat loss phase? 1, energy crashes start to return, or your overall energy in a day is decreased by like 40%. 2, sleep quality has decreased for longer than 7 days in a row. And this includes both time of sleep, so you start sleeping less, or your quality of sleep decreases. 3, food quality starts to decrease. If you start to struggle with food choices and you're not having those veggies or hitting your protein goals, you're not drinking enough fluids. If this starts to happen, it's probably not a good time, or you're having fatigue and it's hard to focus and like be consistent. Probably time to come out, because just trying to push it and not be consistent with those things is just going to lead you to failure. 4, too much stress in your life. So this can be work, family, being really busy, mental health, that kind of stuff, all very important to address. Number 5, are you going on vacation or other periods where you want to be able to enjoy more food? Terrible time to be in a deficit. So we need to bring you out of that slowly. I typically like to see people come out of it 3 to 4 weeks prior to a vacation, so that we're not, again, risking that rebound of fat accumulation. So making sure our metabolism is good and healthy and we're not in that sponge-like state anymore, so you can enjoy your vacation, because vacations are meant to be enjoyed. And then also, if you have been in phase 2, so your fat loss phase, for more than 12 weeks, this requires a diet break or a slow reverse to reignite that metabolism before trying to dip back down again. Because again, we don't want to undo all the hard work that we did in our reverse diet. And then the last one is like lacking tracking. Like if you find you're just getting tracking fatigue and you need to break, that's a sign we should probably bring you out of it, because you're not going to be consistent and you're not going to get to your goals. You're going to feel like a failure. So giving yourself that break that you need. And again, you're not supposed to be tracking food forever. It's just a tool to use to get you to where you want to be. It teaches you about portion sizes and all that kind of good stuff. Before, when I wasn't in a fat loss phase, I would track maybe just a couple days a week or every other week kind of thing, just to make sure I was still on track and like doing well, and not letting estimations get the best of me. So things to note about the fat loss phase is you will typically not lose weight in the first 2 to 3 weeks. And this is because your body is trying to fight to maintain balance. So your body is going to naturally want to hold on to water. So do not panic if you don't see the scale move in the first couple of weeks, because it can just be fluid retention. So you can be losing fat but holding on to water, and that's fine. You typically want to drop by like 300 off the hop for the first 2 to 3 weeks and stay there. And then you can continue to slowly decrease after that. You do want to keep your metabolism up. So having like the occasional refeed day is good, or having like one untracked meal a week, or whatever it is. There's so many different strategies that you can utilize, and like figuring out what that looks like for you. It can like be helpful chatting with a coach. It really depends on the person. So it can be, an untracked meal, or one day where like your calories are like 200 calories more, or whatever it is. There's different things that we can do to really utilize that. So I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope that analogy about penny and understanding the fat loss phase is really important. I hope that you all go back and listen to the "Are you ready for a fat loss phase" checklist. If you have more than 3 of those, then you probably aren't ready. And then the requirements that do tell you if you are ready to go into a fat loss phase. And again, this is what we do with every single woman in our program. You need to meet those requirements, because if you don't, you will not be successful. So we help people through the reverse to make sure that they are actually in fact ready for a fat loss phase. We teach you how to do it. Some people will like continue on multiple cycles with us to get to their end goal with us. Some people will only do the first cycle and they're like, "Okay, I feel good. I do it on my own." And then they go and finish the rest on their own, which is totally fine. And then at the end, the goal is always to learn how to eat without tracking, because you want to be able to enjoy your food. You're not always going to have a scale or measuring cups with you, things like that. There are just different tools to help you get to where you want to be. So like, again, you shouldn't be tracking for the rest of your life. That's not what we want. The other thing is too, like, you should be able to eat the foods that you enjoy all of the time. So like, if you don't want to eat salad every day and you don't see yourself doing that for the rest of your life, probably shouldn't do it during your dieting process. The way you eat while you're going through something like this is the way you should be eating for the rest of your life. So like, we want to make sure that you are actually enjoying your food and things like that. You're eating the foods that you actually like, and you're not depriving yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to stick to it long term. So all these things are super important to be aware of. I hope you found this helpful. I hope those checklists helped. If you found this helpful, please share this. Subscribe to your podcast, wherever you're listening to podcasts, whether that be Apple Podcasts or Spotify, things like that. Enjoy the rest of your day, you guys. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know where to find me. Bye.